Hello, peoples. Last night I got a chance to check out Mickey 17. Now, this is the long awaited and long delayed film from Bong Joon Ho, and I loved Parasite to death. And I'll be honest, that's the only Bong Joon Ho film that I've seen besides Mickey 17. And when you have expectations from a movie like Parasite, I went into this movie just, settling myself because I really think, even though I haven't seen Bong Joon Ho's other films, I know they're not as good as Parasite, and Parasite's his best movie. And I sincerely think, even having seen Mickey 17 already, that some filmmakers, once they make a movie that's like Parasite, you as an audience can't always expect them to top themselves every time. Because I went into this movie basically telling myself this is not going to be anywhere near Parasite. It's not even going to touch Parasite. In fact, it's not going to even be in the same realm. Because that movie is just so good, it's not even fair to be like, yeah, Bong Joon Ho is gonna just do it again. So I'm very happy I went in with those expectations because if I did, this would be like the biggest disappointment of the year. But I still went in and had a really really fun time with it, and that's mostly to do with the commentary in this movie and Robert Pattinson and Mark Ruffalo. Because my God, I loved both of them in this movie. I know a lot of people are criticizing Mark Ruffalo for leaning too much into the dare I call it Trumpisms, but I ate it up. I loved every second of it. I thought it was hilarious, and I know Mark Ruffalo is very political, and even if Bong Joon Ho's intention wasn't to make it basically Trump, that was Mark Ruffalo's intention. But I had so much fun with it. I don't even care. I had so much fun with Ruffalo's performance in this movie. I couldn't care less that he was basically just being super political while acting in this, and this was made before Trump's second term, and so people are like acting like, ooh, that stains the movie. I just think it makes it funnier. So here we are with this incredible performance from both of them. But obviously the better performance in this movie is from Robert Pattinson, who continues to prove his range is just insane. When you look at his performance in The Lighthouse, to Good Time, to The Batman, to this movie, you just can't help but sit back and go like, wow, his range is just absolutely endless. Like it doesn't stop, and his voices that he does in this movie is just it's endlessly funny, but it feels very true to the character. It really feels like he went through this screenplay and took his time to really understand this character that he's playing and how this character might differ from body to body. And I think Mickey 17 and Mickey 18, they still feel, they have their little differences, but at the end of the day, they still kind of feel like Mickey, even though they're very much different in some ways. They have the same memories, and so there's ways that they're able to connect. It seems like I love this movie right now, and while I did really like it, there's things that hold it back. But I'll just say, the version of this movie that I love is probably 3.5 hours, because this movie has a lot that it wants to say and a lot of things that it wants to get through about America. Well, I don't know if it's just American politics, but definitely politics in general, leaders, idea of cloning, the moralization around that, a lot of commentary. I know it's in Bong Joon-ho's other films, and it's definitely in Parasite. It's just, it felt like so much was trying to be crammed in here. It makes me curious if there was a longer cut of this movie. And David Zaslav was just like, no, make this movie shorter, because people say, oh, Bong Joon Ho had the final say on the cut of this movie, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't given litigations to be like, this movie has to be under 2.5 hours. That's what I mean by like, yeah, people are spreading around that article of saying, well, he had final say, but that doesn't actually mean he wasn't given these litigations, because this movie was delayed endlessly, and they said, oh, it's to format it from IMAX, but I don't see how it's profitable to shelve a movie for a year to tweak it for a format that's not going to make it that much more money. I think there was other things going on, and I just can't get that in my head, unless if somebody from Warner Brothers wants to but if Bong Joon-ho, if this is truly his 100% vision, then I respect that. It's just this one's a little cluttered. The first half of this movie is where you will have the most amount of fun with it. But I also think if they took out anything, that's where most of it's taken out. And honestly, I really like the energy of the edited down version of that. But it honestly just makes the second half a little tougher to get through, because the tone dramatically shifts from slapstick sci-fi commentary, satire comedy, to semi-serious version of that in the second half. At one point towards the middle of the movie, when it's starting to slow down and then kind of plant its footing into what its story is trying to be, is where I really sensed this movie struggling the most, where I found myself, okay, we set up all this stuff, we had all these bunch of really funny sequences, we have kind of set up the chess pieces, but I couldn't quite figure out how this game was being played with how this script was unfolding. And that's where I don't know if it was too much for one movie, or if it was studio interference. And that's sad now, where here I am as a critic, I can't tell if it's, this or that. But at the end of the day, it still affected the end product of the film. So I can't be that, like, throwing out softballs just because, oh, it might be studio interference, because unfortunately the movie that we got is the movie that we got. At the end of the day, like I said, still a very well made movie. It's still a very well acted movie. It's incredibly entertaining throughout. Like I said, I know the second half drags on a little bit more compared to the first half, but that's in comparison to the first half. The second half is just really different. And maybe it's not so much the second half, maybe it's just the third act, but it's still filled with hysterical performances. It's just, it takes itself a little bit more seriously in something that was set up to be silly to be. So that's where I kind of scratch my head a little bit. The concept of reprinting over and over and over again 17 times is really funny. They really show it well. It's a really well shot movie, really well edited movie for that first half. And then the acting is just immaculate. At the end of the day, if you're a cinephile, I think this is just kind of like a really good turn your brain off movie just to kind of sit down and watch and have fun with. And unfortunately, when you start to try to put the themes together is where the movie kind of struggles, because there's just so much. I mean, there's still things that gets across, but when it comes to feeling complete at the end, it doesn't necessarily get that much of a win. But like I said, at the end of the day, I enjoyed this movie. It's entertaining throughout. It just has some flaws at the end. And if this were like a Marvel movie, if it wasn't like super well made, this would probably be like a 7 out of 10. But it's a really but the whole thing is that it is really well made. It's incredibly acted, and the actors really, really, really do a lot of heavy lifting. And that's really surprising that I'm saying that about the new Bong Joon-ho film. But I mean, at the same time, a lot of the actors' great performances can be from Bong's amazing direction. So yeah, at the end of the day, I still enjoy this movie quite a bit. It's just maybe not, the huge, amazing follow-up to Parasite that some people were expecting, but I am really glad that I kind of took a step back. I said, look at the trailers, assess that, don't tell yourself it's the director of Parasite so much, and just go in a little bit more open-minded instead of determined that this is going to be a masterpiece. So yeah, I'm going to give Mickey 17 a 8.2 out of 10. Comment down below what you guys thought of Mickey 17. Are you guys more towards the disappointed side? Are you happy with the movie? For me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it was good. I had fun. So yeah, like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that. And adios.